And if there is a crime, the police are called. So for example, I'm in the United Kingdom, I think it's in Scotland and in England and some other countries as well, the parent and the families are left alone unless there is a crime against a child. There is no such organization as, CPS, which kind of goes in and does their lunch lady investigation. If there's a crime, then the police are called upon, the child removed, and then their own form of social security gets involved with what to do with the child at that point. So here we have this huge organization in the United States that eats up a lot of money, takes a lot of funding, and harms a lot of families. And while they're harming families where the children are happy and there's nothing wrong, they're also harming the children who are victims of violence because they're the lunch lady investigators. Basically, CPS and Children and Family Services, that organization really needs to be shut down. If there's any organization in the United States that should be cut out of all funding and disbanded completely, it is that organization. That would strengthen families. It would put actual crime back into the authority of the police where it belongs. And it would free up a lot of money that's being used to harm children and that harms family back into the justice system or back into the government to be redistributed into another department or agency that could better use the money. And what would all of those poor CPS people do without a job? Maybe they could start working in daycares, or use their skills towards doing something that's actually helpful for children. So this is the kind of organization that is running children's affairs and that is supposedly protecting the rights of children, but they're not. The woman who was killed in Georgia, along with her husband, I have never believed that that was a quote-unquote double suicide. Everything about that case argues against it being a double suicide. And she was probably the only person in the entire United States that had a position of authority as a senator, and who did not have a conflict of interest, such as a family member that worked for the military, who championed the rights of children and even went abroad to do that and to try to expose CPS and the corruption and the evidence that she was uncovering. And she and her husband ended up killed with an excuse, a very sophisticated excuse of quote-unquote double suicide. It was not a double suicide. She was a threat because, as I said, CPS acts as a cover for military intelligence programs, for the CIA programs, and other very top-level politicians. And when those individuals are afraid of being uncovered as child abusers, thinking that nobody's going to understand this other program work that they're doing, it's a motive and incentive to kill. So, I believe that they were killed by U.S. authorities of some kind, either FBI, people who already knew how to cover a crime scene up and how to make it look right, or some other sort of state official. Don't believe that it was just some kind of, like, some random person going in and doing it and then trying to cover it up. And no, it was definitely thought out. And I believe somebody already knew ahead of time what kinds of forensics would be done on the crime scene so that they knew how to stage it correctly. She is the only person that ever did anything for kids in the United States in trying to fight CPS. there is a woman in Washington State who makes a big claim about trying to help people. And she's a liar. And then I wanted to know why she was a liar. And then I found out her husband is, I think, United States Air Force, or is, basically is military. And as long as you have somebody who is married or connected to the military involved, you have a conflict of interest, because what CPS is doing involves the military and some of their research programs. So you can't have somebody who claims that they're really fighting for children's rights and also part of military or connected by family to military. It's just not very likely. You know, their family member, for example, her husband would not be getting raises. He would be punished. There are different things that would come into play that just make that a conflict of interest. So they're really going to be supporting the programs against children and not fighting those programs. So I feel that a petition needs to be started. I think that people need to be educated about what CPS is really about and how it harms people, how it harms those who are in danger, and it harms the families that are innocent. And I really feel that if there's one great thing that could be done in America, it would be to close down that entire department. It would be pretty much a liberation of a lot of children and their families. The other thing that I've noticed with CPS is not only do they target the easy bait, they often go after kids from families where you can see that there is no violence, but there's maybe something unique about the family. For example, maybe they're homeschooling their kids, or maybe they are well, for some of the married couples, some of the kids who do get targeted are the ones who are homeschooling their children. And you see that sometimes. And basically, it's sort of an idea of, well, if this is a family that is sort of not going along with the whole regular system in how things work in the U.S., you know, the typical trajectory. If they're doing things on their own and educating their children at their own home, it's almost like they get some idea that that might be an anarchist kind of a family.